Hello boys and girls, welcome to another math session. Today we are going to learn about fractions. Fractions have already been introduced to you in the earlier grades. Today we are going to look a little more into what fractions are. When you take a whole pizza and cut it into different slices, part of that pizza or one of the slices is a fraction of the whole pizza. So fraction is always a part of the whole. Fraction, as you know, has numerator and denominator. If the numerator is less than the denominator, that fraction is called a proper fraction. For example, 1 by 2, 3 by 5, 6 by 9. Numerator is less than the denominator. These fractions are proper fractions. Improper fraction has the numerator greater than the denominator. 23 by 8, 12 by 6. These are improper fractions. An improper fraction can be changed into a mixed fraction. A mixed fraction has two parts. One is the whole number part and one is the fraction part. Let's take an example. 8 by 5, as you see, is an improper fraction. This can be converted into a mixed fraction and written as 1 3 by 5. 1 is your whole number part and 3 by 5 is the fractional part. Now, how do we change an improper fraction into a mixed fraction, and how do we change a mixed fraction into an improper fraction? Let's take an example and do it. 12 by 5 is your improper fraction. How do we change this fraction into a mixed fraction? Let's do the division. 5 2s are 10. It's your remainder. So, (12 by 5) can be written as 2, which is your whole number. This is your whole number. Your quotient is the whole number part. It goes here. And the numerator of the fractional part will be remainder. So that is 2 by 5. So the remainder goes here and the 5 divisor goes here. This is how you convert an improper fraction into a mixed fraction. Let's try another example. 23 by 7. How do you write it as a mixed fraction? Let's do the division. 7 3s are 21. The remainder is 2. So remember, the mixed fraction has a whole part and a fractional part. The whole part is your quotient. This is 3. That's where the whole number is. And the fractional part has numerator and denominator. What comes in the numerator? That's right, the remainder, which is 2. 2, which is your remainder, comes in the numerator. And what comes in the denominator? 7. So 23 by 7 can be written as 3 2 by 7. This is how you convert an improper fraction into a mixed fraction. Let's see how we can change a mixed fraction back into an improper fraction. 2 2 by 5. This is your mixed fraction. How do you make it into an improper fraction? This is what you do. To get the numerator of the improper fraction, multiply the denominator and the whole number. So the first step is to do 5 into 2. Then you need to add this to the numerator, plus 2. So this is what? 10 plus 2 is 12. So if you have to, this 12 becomes your numerator and the denominator remains the same. So numerator by denominator, we got the numerator as 12 and the denominator remains the same. This is how you can convert a mixed fraction into an improper fraction. Let's take another example. 3 2 by 7. Remember, you're converting this mixed fraction into an improper fraction. You can straight away write the denominator. It will remain the same, 7. But how do you find the numerator? You have to multiply 7 and 3. 7 into 3. Multiply the denominator with the whole number part and add it to the numerator. Plus 2. 7 into 3 plus 2. That is 21 plus 2. 23. That is your numerator. There you go. This is how you can change a mixed fraction into an improper fraction. Now let's talk about equivalent fractions. Equivalent fractions are fractions that have the same value when reduced. We know the fractions have to always be in its simplest form. That means both the numerator and denominator has to have only 1 as their common factor. So let's look at an equivalent fraction. 6 by 8, 12 by 16, 18 by 24. These fractions are equivalent fractions because when you reduce the fraction to its simplest form, 6 divided by 2, 8 divided by 2 is 3 by 4. 3 by 4 is the simplest form of 6 by 8. What about 12 by 16? 12 by 16, if you divide it by 4, 3 by 4, 3 by 4 again. What about 18 by 24? Common factor is 6. So divided by 6, 3 by 4. You see, all the 3 fractions have 3 by 4 as the common value. So when the fractions are reduced to its simplest form, if the value is the same, 3 by 4, 3 by 4, 3 by 4, these fractions are called equivalent fractions. Can you tell me what could be the equivalent fractions of 2 by 3? Can be 4 by 6. Another fraction can be 6 by 9. That's right. They are equivalent fractions. Because when you reduce it into the simplest form, you will find the value same. 2 by 3 simplest form is 2 by 3. 4 by 6 can be further reduced by dividing it by 2. It will be 2 by 3. 6 by 9 also can be further reduced by dividing it by 3. 2 by 3. The value when reduced to the simplest form is the same. Therefore, these 3 fractions are also equivalent fractions. What do you think are like and unlike fractions? We've seen improper, we've seen proper, we've seen mixed, we've seen equivalent fractions. What do you think are like and unlike fractions? Like fractions have the same denominator. Unlike fractions have different denominators. Let's look at the examples. Like fractions: 7 by 11, 3 by 11, 5 by 11, 6 by 11. All these fractions have 11 as the denominator. They are called like fractions, the same denominator. What are the examples of unlike fractions? 3 by 5, 6 by 7, 2 by 3, 1 by 4. All the denominators are different. Therefore, these fractions are unlike fractions. How can we compare fractions? We know how to compare numbers and how to find which is greater, which is smaller, which is equal. How do we do it when it comes to fractions? Let's start with comparing like fractions. 7 by 11, 3 by 11, 4 by 11, 6 by 11, 5 by 11. These are like fractions. How do we compare this? Since the denominators are the same, we have to only look at the numerator. Greater the numerator, greater the fraction. Greater the numerator, greater the fraction. So, if I have to ask you to write these fractions in ascending order, how do we do it? We know ascending order is from the smallest to the biggest. So, 3, the smallest is 3. 3 is the smallest number. 3 by 11 is less than 4 by 11, is less than 5 by 11, is less than 6 by 11, is less than 7 by 11. That's right. This is how you can compare like fractions. Since the denominators are same, you only have to look at the numerator. Greater the numerator, greater the fraction. What do we do when we have fractions that have the same numerator but different denominators? For example, 15 by 11, 15 by 3, 15 by 20, 15 by 4, 15 by 12. If you notice, all the numerators are the same, but the denominators are different. What do we do when you have fractions like this? How do you compare them? Smaller the denominator, greater the fraction. So, if you have to write it in ascending order, smallest to the biggest, remember, smaller the denominator, greater the fraction. So the smallest fraction will be having the greatest denominator. 15 by 20 is the smallest. Then it is 15 by 12. Then it is 15 by 11, which is less than 15 by 4, which is less than 15 by 3. When the numerators are the same, you have to look at the denominators. Smaller the denominator, greater the fraction. How do we compare fractions that do not have the same denominator or numerator? For example, 3 by 5 and 7 by 8. How can we compare these two fractions? The numerators are different, the denominators are also different. How do we compare them? Let's observe and do this. First, we need to find the LCM of the denominators 5 and 8. What is the LCM? 40. That's right. Now, you need to multiply the numerator and denominator by 8. What are we doing here? We are trying to change these two fractions into like fractions. We know what like fractions are. Like fractions have the same denominator. So how do we do that is we find the LCM and we multiply the numerator and denominator with 8 so that we have the denominator as 40 for this, and we need to have denominator as 40 for this fraction as well. What do we do to get that? We multiply it by 5. So the numerator becomes 35. So there you go. Now you have 24 by 40 and 35 by 40. You see, this is how you change the unlike fraction into like fraction. Once you have like fractions, it's easy to compare. We have the same denominators, so you just have to look at the numerator. Which is greater? 35 by 40 is greater, so we can write it as 35 by 40 is greater than 24 by 40. This is how you can compare fractions when they don't have the same denominator and numerator. Let's work out another example. How can you compare 1 by 4, 3 by 2 and 5 by 6? The numerators and the denominators are different here. So what do? First step is to get the LCM. The LCM of 2, 4, 6 is 12. Now you need to convert all this into like fractions. So 1 by 4, how do you convert it? We need to have 12 as the denominator. So you multiply by 3. 3 by 12. 1 by 4 becomes 3 by 12. What about 3 by 2? What do we need to do to have the denominator as 12? 2 has to be multiplied by 6. So numerator also has to be multiplied by 6. You get 18. And what about 5 by 6? Multiplied by 2. There you go. You got the 3 fractions which are like fractions. 3 by 12, 10 by 12 and 18 by 12. So now that we converted the fractions into like fractions, it's easy to compare. The denominators are the same, so you only have to look at the numerators. So how do we write it in descending order? 3 by 12 is the smallest, followed by 10 by 12, followed by 18 by 12. Therefore, ascending order of the given fractions is 1 by 4 is less than 5 by 6 is less than 3 by 2, because 1 by 4 corresponds to this, 5 by 6 is this, 3 by 2 is this. This is how you can compare fractions that do not have the same numerator and denominator. Now let's talk about addition and subtraction of fractions. How do we add and subtract fractions? Take an example, 1 by 5, 3 by 4, 2 by 3. How do we add these 3 fractions? Step 1, find the LCM of the denominators. 5, 4, 3. What is the LCM? 60. That's your step 1. Step 2, you need to change these fractions into equivalent fractions. So 1 by 5, to have the denominator 60, you need to multiply it with 12. It becomes 12 by 60. 3 by 4, to have the denominator as 60, you need to multiply it with 15. 15 3s is 45. What about 2 by 3? Multiplied with 20, becomes 40 by 60. So you finish step 1, finding LCM. Step 2 is you convert the fraction into equivalent fractions. And step 3 is to add and change it into mixed fraction. So you add 12 plus 45 plus 40 divided by 60. This gives you 97 by 60. But this is not the simplest form. How do you convert it into the simplest form? The simplest form will be 137 by 60. That's how you can add fractions. Let's take another example. How do we add 3 1 by 5 and 2, 2 by 3. Mixed fractions are given. So let's first convert that into a improper fraction. So 5 3s are 15 plus 1 16 by 5 and 3 2s are 6, 6 plus 2 8 by 3. You've seen earlier how to convert a mixed fraction into an improper fraction. This is how you do it. So you convert it, and once you have this fraction, you need to follow the steps mentioned earlier. Find the LCM of the denominators. 5 and 3 is 15. Convert it in. Second step is to convert it into equivalent fractions. Into 3. So this becomes 48 by 15 and 8 by 3. To have the denominator 15, you need to multiply it by 5. 40 by 15. The third step is to add 48 plus 40 by 15. That's 88 by 15. If you do the division, you will be able to change this into a mixed fraction, which is the simplest form. 5 13 by 15. This is how you do addition of fractions. So when a fraction is given, find the LCM of the denominators. Once you find the LCM, convert the fractions into equivalent fractions having the same denominator, and then just add both the fractions. Once you add it, make it into its simplest form. How do we subtract? Let's take an example. How do we subtract 11 by 15 from 2 by 5? The same process. Find the LCM. LCM of the denominator is 15. So 11 by 15, we are changing it into equivalent fractions. Into 1 is 11. How about 2 by 5? 2 by 5, to make the denominator 15, you need to multiply it by 3. 6 by 15. Now instead of adding, you have to subtract. 11 minus 6 by 15 becomes 5 by 15. Is this the simplest form? No. You can break it down into, if you divide it by 5, you will get 1 by 3. This is your simplest form, and that is how you do subtraction. Let's try a combination of addition and subtraction. Here's the question. Subtract the sum of 6 1 by 5 and 4 2 by 7 from 15 1 by 3. So the first step is to do the sum. Let's do the addition. Sum of 6 1 by 5 and 4 2 by 7. How do we do it? 6 1 by 5 plus 4 2 by 7. 6 5s are 30. 30 plus 1, 31 by 5. Changing the mixed fraction. 7 4s are 28 plus 2, 30 by 7. What do you think is the LCM of the denominator? 35. So what has to be multiplied to this denominator to make it 35? 7. So 31 into 7 will be 217. How about this? 5 needs to be multiplied to make it 35. So numerator also needs to be multiplied by 5. 35 is 150. That's it. 367 by 35. If you have to convert it into the simplest form, it will be a mixed fraction of 10 17 by 35, which is your first step. Let's do step 2. Remember, they asked you to subtract the sum from 15 1 by 3. So 15 1 by 3 minus 10 17 by 35. 46 by 3 minus 367 by 35. How did we get 367? 35 into 10 is 350. 350 plus 17 is 367 by 35. The LCM is 105. 1610 minus 1101. How did I do that? 3 into 35 is 105. So numerator also needs to be multiplied with 35. The same with this. 35 into 3 is 105. So numerator has to be multiplied by 3. That's how you get this. Now you have, it's a simple subtraction. 509 by 105, which is 489 by 105. This is your answer. This is how you do a combination of addition and subtraction. Now let's look at a couple of properties of addition and subtraction. Have a look at this fraction. 2 by 3 plus 0, 3 by 4 plus 0. What do you think it is? It's 2 by 3. It's 3 by 4. So whenever 0 is added to any fraction, the sum is the fraction itself. When 0 is added to any fraction, the sum is the fraction itself. That's one property of addition. Let's look at another property of addition. 2 by 3 plus 3 by 2 is the same as 3 by 2 plus 2 by 3. So the sum of two fractions will be the same even when the order of addition is changed. Let's check. Take the LCM, 6. So 3 into 2, 2 into 2. 4 plus 2 into 3, 3 into 3, 4 plus 9. Here this side, on the right side you have the LCM as 6. 2 into 3 is 6. So numerator has to be multiplied by 3. 3 3s is 9. 3 into 2 is 6. Numerator has to be multiplied by 2. 9 plus 4. So you get 13 by 6 on the left hand side and 13 by 6 on the right hand side. There you go. That's why these two fractions are equal. So the sum of two or more fractions will be the same even when order of addition is changed. In other words, a by b plus c by d is the same as c by d plus a by b. The order of addition doesn't affect the result. That's another property. Let's take a look at two properties of subtraction. What do you think the answer to this is? 2 by 3 minus 0 or 3 by 4 minus 0. What happens when you remove 0 from the fraction? The answer is a fraction itself. Very good. 2 by 3, 3 by 4 minus 0 is 3 by 4. So when 0 is subtracted from a fraction, the answer is the fraction itself. That's a property. The second property, look at this, 2 by 3 minus 2 by 3. What do you think is 2 by 3 minus 2 by 3? It is 0. That's right. The LCM is 3, so it's 2 minus 2 on the numerator. 0 by 3 is 0. In other words, when a fraction is subtracted from itself, the answer is 0. So here are the four properties of addition and subtraction. When 0 is added to any fraction, the sum is a fraction itself. That is a by b plus 0 is a by b. When two or more fractions are added, even if the order is changed, the sum is the same. In other words, a by b plus c by d is equal to c by d plus a by b. The next property is a by b minus 0 is a by b. That means when 0 is subtracted from a fraction, the answer is the fraction itself. And the next one, when a fraction is subtracted from itself, the answer is 0. A by b minus a by b is 0. I hope this class was useful to you. You've learned a lot of things today. You saw what proper fractions are, improper fractions are. We've seen how to convert improper fractions to mixed fractions and mixed fractions to improper fractions. We learned about equivalent fractions. We've seen how it is important to write all the fractions in its simplest form. And then we saw what like and unlike fractions are. We compared fractions. Then we learned about addition and subtraction of fractions. I encourage you to go through your book and do all the questions and activities mentioned there. The more you do it, the easier fractions will become. Happy learning. Bye-bye.